Hey, mathematicians, ratio tables to the rescue. Oh my gosh. All right. So, this is part two of today's activity, and it is all about ratio tables to help us figure out problems a little easier. I'm going to try to get through this quick again because I know how much you love listening to Mr. McIntosh, but I know. Okay. So, number one says use the ratio table to multiply 22 times 45. So, this is like a different way to solve 45 times 22 and a different visual to help you. So basically what you do is you start with the unit rate of 45. So 1 times 45 is 45. And then we bump it up to 2. So we're just doubling, right? So we're just doubling each time. So 1 times 2 is 2. 45 times 2 is 90. Double of that is 90. And then we ask ourselves, okay, how did we get from 2 to 20? Well, we multiply by 10. So whatever you do the bottom, you got to do the top, or whatever you do the top, you have to do the bottom. Has to stay the same ratio. That's why it's called a ratio table. So 2 times 10 is 20. 9 times 10 is, believe it or not, is 900. I know. Now, how do we get from 20 to 22? Well, we are adding 2, but we're not going to add 2 to the 900, right? We're not adding 2 to the 900 because that's not the same ratio. This is part of the answer. So basically what I'm saying is 20 times 10 is 900, but 22 is not, when we get up to 22, we're not adding the 2, okay? So we have to keep the same ratio. So we're really adding 2 groups of 45 right here. So 2 groups of 45, we already know what that is. It's 90. So what you can do for this column is add these 2 columns, which is 20 plus 2. So if we add those 2 together, we get 22, right? 20 plus 20, 20 plus 2 is 22. So the same thing goes for the bottom column. If we add 900 plus 90, we get our answer. So 22 times 45 is 990. Okay. Number 2 says use the ratio tables to find equivalent fractions so that you can add 2/5 and 1/8. So we have 2/5 in this ratio table, 1/8 in this ratio table. Our common denominator that we're trying to find is 40, right? So remember, Mr. Max says if you need to, you can always multiply 5 times 8 to get your or the two denominators to find the common denominator. In this case, it's 5 times 8, which is 40. So how do we get from 5 to 40? What do we multiply by? Well, I'll tell you, it's 5 times 8. Whenever we do the bottom, you got to do the top. So we're going to do the same thing to the 2. 2 times 8 is 16/40. Okay? So the first one, 2/5 is equivalent to 16/40. And then 1/8, how do we get from, what do we multiply by 8 to get to 40? Good, we multiply by 5. Whatever you do the bottom, you have to do the top. So we're going to multiply the 1 by 5. And it's 5/40. Okay, so can you see that? So that says, I can't tell if you can tell, but that says 16/40 plus 5/40. Now we can just add across and the 40th stays the same, which is nice. 16 plus 5 is 21 and the 40th stays the same. All right, so 21/40. Number 3, use a ratio table to simplify a fraction. Whenever we're simplifying, we're dividing or going backwards to make it a smaller fraction. You may not need to use all the columns, might not need to use them. So here's the example, 35 hundredths. They divided each section by 5 to find the most simplified answer, okay? So you have to find a common factor between the two to simplify down. And it might take a couple times to figure out the final fraction. So for instance, 6/24. Let's see, what can we divide by both? What's a common factor of 6 and 24? Like what's a number that can go into both 6 and 24? How about 2? We can, since they're both even numbers, we can divide both by 2. Okay. And there is a bigger one. If you already see that, go ahead and write that down. You don't need to follow Mr. Mac on this, but I'm just going to slowly work through this one. So 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 24 divided by 2 is 12. So now we're at 3/12. We can go smaller, folks. We can go smaller. We can go even smaller. So what's a common factor between 3 and 12? Well, we can divide both numbers by the number 3. We can divide 3 divided by 3, and we can divide 12 divided by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. So 6/24 can be simplified to 1/4. Now, you could also have started by just saying both 6 and 24 can be divided by 6, if you notice that. So 6 divided by 6 is 1, and 24 divided by 6 is 4. And you notice that if we combine the 2 and the 3, that's 6. So that's another way that you can figure that out. Okay, so that's number 3. Number 4 is optional. And I'm not even going to do this because I don't want to take up time. But if you want to do 4 and try to impress Mr. Mac, go ahead and try that. And we can talk about that. Maybe you and your teachers can talk about that too during your live time. So we're going to skip 4 for now, but please try it if you want to. And so now we're just left on number 5. And it says Regina used a ratio table incorrectly to add 1/6 plus 1/3. Explain her error. So here's what she did. She said 1/6 plus 1/3 equals 2/9. What did she do? Oh, she didn't find the common denominator. She just added the two denominators together to get 9. She did the correct step with the numerator. It might be 2, but not when we change the denominators. But so she added the denominators instead of finding the common denominator. So let's write something like that. So Regina did not find the common denominator. Denominator. I always like to say it like Arnold Schwarzenegger. The denominator. Sorry, going a little crazy. Regina did not find the denominator. So her fractions are not equivalent. Her fractions are not equivalent. Okay? So while you're writing that, Mr. Mac's going to solve this. So what I said again, Regina did not find the common denominator. Her fractions are not equivalent. So what we do want to do, if we did want to find the actual answer, we would have to change the 1/3 into sixths. So it would be 1/3 plus 2/6. So we're just doubling the 1 and the 3. And the 1/6 can stay the same. So really, the real answer is 3/6 or 1/2. Okay. So if you made it this far, which actor did Mr. Mac and Governor, the Governator, who was that I impersonated so well? I'm such a good impersonator. Impeccable. Maybe you get bonus points. I don't know. Hey, okay, Mr. Mac's going crazy. Enjoy fractions again.